Season 8 has begun, and with the start of any new season, there is always a race to see who can hit the number 1 rank in Challenger first. The solo queue stars are all vying for a place in rank 1, trying to gain a massive LP lead over their competition. In North America, we have TF Blade, the undisputed king of Akali, capable of 1v5ing the entire enemy team himself. He is currently 33 LP ahead of the rank 2 spot. In EU, we have Skarlet, an up-and-comer for Origin's mid lane, maining Cassiopeia and Kassadin for mid and late game dominance. Currently, he is virtually tied with the rank 2 spot in terms of LP. But in Korea, the rank 1 spot is ahead of the second spot by 229 LP. His name is KSV Life, and he's a Tahm Kench support main? What? This is KSV Life. I have no idea who he is. Only that he's a support main and that he is practically unstoppable in solo queue. Life plays a champion that is not very popular with the support role, Tahm Kench. Currently, Tahm Kench only sees a win rate of about 48% and a play rate less than 1%. What does Life do so differently that sets him apart from other Tahm Kench players? How is he so good at climbing at a role generally considered hard to climb with and a champion that's not really even meta? The biggest difference in Life's playstyle is in his runes. KSV Life takes Glacial Augment as his primary rune on Tahm Kench every single game. Most people are even unfamiliar with this rune since it's so unpopular. It's probably the most unpopular rune out there. Here's what Glacial Augment does. It makes your first auto attack against an enemy champion slow them for about 50%. This slow increases slightly over time. If you use an active item that slows enemies, you'll shoot out a small freeze ray that slows them even more. So what you might be thinking is, oh, KSV Life probably has some crazy build where he's just constantly perma-slowing people, right? Well, not quite. The main reason that KSV Life actually takes this rune is not even to buy slowing items. In fact, in his last 30 games, the only slowing item that he ever purchases is Randuin's Omen, and that's mainly for the tankiness in the item rather than the active itself. In most of his games, KSV Life almost never purchases slowing effects. In fact, in many of his games, he will actually opt for Frozen Heart over Randuin's Omen because he feels that the aura that Frozen Heart gives is more valuable than Randuin's Omen. So he essentially only takes his keystone for that little bit of a slow on his auto attack. What is so significant about a slow like that? Wouldn't it be better to go into the tanky tree where you can take Guardian or Aftershock or literally anything that could be better for Tahm Kench? The reason that he takes Glacial Augment is because it's Tahm Kench. If you look at Tahm Kench as a champion, most of this guy's kit is revolved around his W. Most of his identity and his strength is also revolved around his W. Its peel potential, its damage, its 1v1, everything is stacked up into this one ability. At rank 1, this ability does 20% of a target's maximum HP. The only stipulation is that it's very difficult to hit. Especially so in a bot lane where you have slows, snares, CCs, speed ups, black shields. There's a lot of things that prevent you from actually hitting this ability and getting 3 stacks on someone. Here's why Glacial Augment helps with that so much. When you're walking up to someone as Tahm Kench and you're trying to slow them with your Q, a lot of people will try to juke back and forth. When they're juking back and forth, they're losing distance, because while you're walking in a straight line towards them, they're walking in slight zigzags. By doing this, it allows you to get in closer range for your auto attack. If you can land a single auto attack with Tahm Kench, the Glacial Augment will slow them by about 50%. While these enemy champions are slowed, you're almost guaranteed to hit your Q. Since your Tongue Lash also slows them for a significant amount, you are then guaranteed another auto attack, which means you can easily hit this 3 stack. You can then devour the enemy right in front of you and spit them out and kill them with your AD carry. Sometimes you don't even need to be the aggressor. Sometimes your AD carry will have a little bit of CC themselves, and you might not even need to land your Q. When you get devoured by Tahm Kench, that is almost the equivalent of getting pulled in by Blitzcrank. You are now out of position, and your champion has now taken a massive amount of damage. There's very little chance that you're gonna win this trade. So imagine if Blitzcrank had a Keystone Mastery that said, this mastery allows you to hit your hook 50% more. Well then of course every single Blitzcrank player would be taking this mastery. Tahm Kench isn't like a lot of other tank supports. He's already really bulky by himself thanks to his E, thick skin. The shield that it provides for him really makes it unattractive to try and burst down a champion like that. In the early game as Tahm Kench, you want to play semi-passively. While your Devourer is really strong, since you don't go into the Resolve tree and you're not as tanky as a full tank support, until you get thick skin, you're actually somewhat of a squishy support. Usually Tahm Kench spikes hardest at level 4. Level 4 is when you have all your abilities and 2 points into your Q. At that point, your Q will slow the enemy for almost the same amount as your Glacial Augment. This makes it really easy to start devouring people. Your main priority in the laning phase is to get your stacks down and to get a Devour down on one of the enemy champions. Do not waste your Devour on minions in order to poke them. You're just going to waste too much mana and you won't have enough to all in when the time comes. One thing that Tahm Kench is not great at doing, unlike other supports, is roaming. When you're roaming as Tahm Kench without your ultimate, generally speaking, you won't be able to actually get that Glacial Augment slow. Because usually you'll have to hit a max range Tongue Lash, and that is a lot easier to dodge. Unlike other roaming supports like Leona or Alistar, who have easy to hit and a lot of forms of CC, if you look at Tahm Kench's basic kit, all he really has is one slow. It is very unlikely you'll actually be able to devour someone unless you can get on top of them with your ultimate. Remember that your ultimate is not just used for ganking, but it can be used for changing into a different objective. For example, if you take bot lane turret, you can ult with your jungler to quickly go take the dragon so that you guys can all back faster. Against certain team comps, you might not always be able to gank laners. Instead of overdiving, just go take another objective and go back to base faster to get more gold. In the mid game, you pretty much just want to stick on top of your AD carry. In team fights, most of the time, you won't be using Devour on an enemy. Tahm Kench is far too slow in his Devour to actually be able to eat someone in time to save another teammate. Though Glacial Augment slows them, and you have your Q to follow up with that slow, you still need another auto attack on top of that. That's basically 3 slow Tahm Kench auto attacks. That'll take approximately 1.5 seconds. If an assassin has 1.5 seconds on top of your AD carry, well then of course he's going to die. This is where Devour's true power really comes in. When your AD carries get caught by CC, or they get caught by a gap closer, or they look like they're imminently about to die, just eat them up, put them in your stomach, run away, or flash away. The way you use Tahm Kench's Devour in a team fight is you think of it as your AD carries Cleanse, Zhonya's, and Flash. So making sure that you use it when they get either caught out or crowd controlled, and then repositioning them to make sure that they get a flash worth of distance, and then making sure that you yourself are standing in front of them to body block for them, to make sure that they stay alive and carry this team fight. Make sure that your cursor is right on top of the ally that you're trying to eat. A lot of times in a team fight, you might eat a minion or an enemy champion instead of the person that you're trying to save. It is very important in team fights to position yourself almost like Thresh. The reason for that is so that you can make sure that they gain enough distance when you devour them. You gotta make sure that you're standing behind the carry that you're trying to save. If you devour them while they're in front of you, you're only getting the Zhonya's portion of this ability. You're not getting the Flash portion of this ability. Here's KSV Life's build. He starts Relic Shield and upgrades into Targon's, and then purchases his first support item, being either Knight's Vow or Locket. Here's something that KSV Life does differently in his build. As discussed before, he doesn't really buy slowing items. But one other thing he usually doesn't buy early on is an actual Sightstone. With the new changes to Sightstone, Remnant of the Aspect now only gives you wards after you complete the quest, which means it'll actually take some time before you get the full value of this item. What KSV Life does instead is he likes to finish his first 2 support items, Knight's Vow and Locket of the Iron Solari, first. Because these items give him full value in team fights, in 1v1s, and in dangerous situations, these items are always going to be more effective in the early to mid game. He usually just upgrades into Targon's Brace, sits on that, and starts purchasing his other support items. Usually he'll wait until Remnant of the Aspect will give him the full 4 wards that it's supposed to give you, and then purchase this item. And in the late game, there's some variation in what you can buy on support Tahm Kench, usually depending on the enemy comp. Redemption is still a really solid choice, Frozen Heart for attack speed comps, Randuin's Omen for crit comps, Adaptive Helm for AP heavy comps, Mikhail's Crucible for CC heavy comps. All simply depends on each game. Although Tahm Kench is not considered to be so, he's very likely to actually be the strongest support in League right now. Many Korean solo queue players have begun adapting and copying his style, and with the support role being more impactful than it ever has before, Tahm Kench is also potentially one of the best solo queue carries. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed that video, please subscribe, like, and share this video. If you want to watch more videos, you can check out my YouTube channel right here. That's it. Bye.